Nope. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Rotary Club of London meeting for today. Traditionally, we start our Rotary meetings with a toast to the Queen. So I would like to start a meeting, if everybody's ready, with a toast to the Queen of Canada. And secondly, a toast to Rotary International. And we also have a special toast today, and I will call upon Don Stevens to lead us in that toast.
Thank you, Mr. President. David Elliott, we're here today where we can recognize you as a past district governor, a title that you've earned with distinction. When you left California 2 years ago, almost now, or a year and a half ago, you were going to bring back to our district the theme of Rotary opens opportunities. And overnight, with the pandemic, you became our COVID district governor. In fact, the theme might have got revised or did get revised to COVID opens doors and opened opportunities. And you did that in such a remarkable way. You've accomplished so much with your accomplishment, but every district government commitment was to meet with every club virtually, and you were able to speak with every Rotarian in December when you shared your district governor's address. You encouraged every club to include an environmental project, reinforced Rotary's newest area of focus. You ran a very successful Polio Plus campaign, and I remember seeing on Facebook you and Susan wearing your red running shoes to promote the walk. I recall our first district conference meeting over 2 years ago now. Pre-COVID, your opening comments to us, we had to think outside the box. You did not want to have a do it again conference. Along with strong leadership from Rick Coates and with the help of other members across the district, the concept of hosting a district conference at the RBC Center gathering past youth exchange participants over the past 50 years started to take shape. Quickly as the pandemic took hold, the conference was canceled, and with your leadership, everything changed. The conference became a year-long event. 9 noon Zooms were organized, each at one every month, bringing together World Rotarian leaders into our district, giving us a tremendous opportunity to learn more about Rotary. Then on June the 5th, the celebration of 50 years of Rotary Youth Exchange virtually brought together and united over 500 participants in the Youth Exchange program from over 40 countries. The opportunity to meet virtually allowed this celebration to exceed all our expectations. Past District Governor David, throughout your year as a district governor, you represented our Rotary Club of London very, very well. Speaking personally and on behalf of each and every member of our club this past year, each year we raise our glasses to toast Rotary as Diane had us do. But today I'd like all of us to raise our glass and toast you for thanking you and Susan very much for such a year as our district governor. Thank you very much.
I don't know whether you're supposed to respond from a toast, but thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Don Stevens. We will now get started with the normal portion of our meetings, and it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today. And Steve is from the Humane Society of London and Middlesex, which was established as a nonprofit organization 122 years ago, and it exists to improve the lives of animals by providing temporary shelter and appropriate new families for surrendered animals. Throughout the years, the Humane Society of London and Middlesex has worked tirelessly to assist animals by providing them with a home until they can be adopted into a new family. They rely solely on individual and corporate donations in order to provide care for animals in our community. Our speaker today is Steve Ryall, who is the Executive Director of the Humane Society and has been since March 2018. Steve's background is in business, media, and non-for-profits across North America, and he's a member of the Humane Canada, the Ontario Animal Welfare Network, and received a Legacy of Leadership Award from the Association for Animal Welfare Advancement in 2019. Following the rebranding of the London Humane Society to the Humane Society of London and Middlesex in 2019, Steve has been focused on continuing the growth and development of the organization and working towards building a new home, new hope for the Humane Society in 2023. And we will now pass over control over to you, Steve.
Don, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with everybody here at Rotary. It is an honor, and it's very good to see some very familiar faces, and one for sure, Mr. Early. It's nice to see your face. It's been a few years since we worked together on the Thames Valley Children's Center Sports Celebrity Dinner and Auction. So it's nice to see you again. And I also saw, I think, Mr. Granger, who's been a longtime family friend of ours. So thank you to everybody, and congratulations to David and Susan for your achievements as well. So I guess I'll start by kind of just continuing on with what Don introduced to the Humane Society. We essentially have been here on Clarkside Road for approximately 122 years. The original farmhouse, from our understanding and some research, is still inside of this building somewhere. I believe it's in an area that sits a little bit lower than the grade now, so that must have changed over time. And my mom, who had passed away last year, told me a story that her and her sister would ride out here to see a special boy who lived here back in when they were younger kids, and recalled the house and a barn. And over the years, that's evolved into the facility that we have now, which is approximately 9,700 square feet on just under an acre, just south of Oxford Street on Clarkside Road. Annually, we work with approximately 2,000 animals here in our community, and we are entirely dependent on individual and corporate donations. It's definitely one thing that I learned here when I first came on as part of the team, was that funding does not come from the government. There's no level of government that we see dollars come from, and it's entirely the community. And so that really kind of put me in a guided path that we work for the community, and the community supports us to be able to do that work. And I'm pretty lucky to get paid to be able to walk a dog in the middle of the day and say that's part of my job, or go pet a cat, have one cross across my desk some days. So it's quite an honor. So we're a staff of approximately 25 people, but an army of approximately closer to 300 with our volunteer base. Without our volunteers in this community, we would not be able to exist and be able to do the work that we've been able to do. We were formerly known as the London Humane Society when I started here, and it didn't really encompass the service area that we were working with, and also didn't represent us in a good way of confining us to that. So we began down a path with a local company called Northern Commerce to rebrand the association and really relaunch and have a rebirth of who we are and what we do in the community. And today we're now at the Humane Society London and Middlesex, and we've actually taken on Oxford and Elgin as well. And so we won't be changing our name, but we are definitely working well with those communities. We are not governed by any specific group, or not part of another group. In a sense, all the humane societies across Ontario or Canada are individually owned and operated as not-for-profits. And so we work for a board of approximately 11 board members that are volunteers here in the community, who have their own day jobs and really do a good job with governance and working with us, and leave the day-to-day work here with our staff and our volunteers and our supporters. So things seem to be working really, really well. We've made a lot of changes in the last 3 years. One of which is we are not an affiliate of the OSPCA, which used to be a part of a larger group that would have the enforcement piece to animal abuse, and so we did work with the provincial government for 6 months to try to reorganize that. And I'm trying to get my years straight. In 2020, at the start of the year, we started working with a group called PAWS, which really is a government effort named as Provincial Animal Welfare Services. And so we now work with them in situations where animals are neglected or abused, and we provide the housing for them on a local basis. So animals will stay with us here under our care and our protection while those cases proceed. We also work closely with London Police Services in any time of need where they require our services. And in 2020, we launched HSLM Animal Response. We were donated a bus from Voyago along with 2 vans. to be able to provide that service and arrive at homes that maybe had hoarding situations or large volumes of animals where our assistance was needed, whether that's through the police or just the general community or the provincial animal welfare services. And so it's something that I share with you today, but something that we do keep somewhat quiet out of respect for people. We want people to feel comfortable calling here. And so if we made large publicity announcements about that, it may scare people away from reaching out to our services. So I can't see anybody, but I trust everybody can still hear and see me.
All good.
Good. Awesome. Any questions so far on that? And I had a little bit of a presentation about our future that I'm really super excited to share, but wanted to open up before I got too far if anybody had any questions or anything that they wanted to comment on so far.
I would just ask if you have a situation to need to take a large animal into care beyond a cat and dog, how would you handle that?
So here at the shelter, we handle anything that's considered a pet. So I'm assuming you're thinking maybe like in the terms of a horse or cattle or those types of things.
Yes.
Okay. So when we were previously in charge of enforcement, we would look after that. In fact, a number of years ago, I had to resource a home for 160 cattle. And it was no small feat, to say the least, because obviously we couldn't handle them here at our location inside the city. And we worked with that person to be able to do that and support the officers at that time. Now, in that situation, that case would be readily handled by PAWS, Provincial Animal Welfare Services. And so if the call came into us, we would definitely assist in reporting and do whatever we could. But it would be the government's program to reach out and source a home, a protective space for those animals. And we still would make sure we were part of the advocacy to make sure that things were happening correctly and carrying through with that. And so I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I would say yes.
Okay, good. Any other questions, or I'll move forward with the presentation.
Mike DeLorenzi is a friend of mine from Northern.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Do you work with him on anything regarding this?
Michael's our chair of our organization. So
great.
Yeah. So the biggest part of the change has come from Michael's leadership and working with him and the board that we have. So
amazing.
Amazing. Very impressive person, and always glad to be around his presence. He has an incredible aura about him and his knowledge of business.
Yeah, he keeps trying to sell me T-shirts for the Humane Society, so maybe I should buy one.
The $100 T-shirt.
Yes.
Yeah, very successful program for us.
Yeah, I'm realizing it's for a good cause, so I think I'll do it.
Awesome, that's good. It's always good to get a T-shirt sold. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
Okay, so I think I'll slide forward. I can't see anybody, but I assume you can still see everything that's going on. And I'm proud to share that one of the two mandates that when I came on board was to reorganize the business side of the Humane Society. As mentioned, I don't have an animal welfare background other than, I've always had pets and had a passion for them, but can't really contribute on a medical side or any of those types of things. I'm known for saying on the media that I am not a vet. I just play one on TV sometimes. And when they get too technical for me, I need to defer that. But so the first mandate was to reorganize the society into running to be more of a proper business. And we continue to work on that every single day. And that will never stop. The second was to move us into a position to be able to say goodbye to the current shelter. It has provided us well for 120 years, but it's well known, I believe, amongst the community that the shelter has passed its prime. And I joke that we should be hiring a full-time plumber at this point because they are here so often. I can't imagine what would be inside of some of those pipes and stuff over the years, but we definitely are continuously investing money into the shelter to keep it where it needs to be. But at the same point, it's probably, not good investment at this time for long term. So we're always having to consider those types of things. We did do some improvements over the years, some major ones. We invested $40,000 into new air conditioning units. Previous before, nothing was here, and there was just some fans that would pull hot air out, which was definitely inefficient. And LED lighting, painting, updated a whole bunch of cages, and really cleaned up the yard and stuff as well, just to make it a little bit more comfortable work, not only just for the animals, but also our employees and stuff, and make it a nicer place to work and also to volunteer. So in January of 2019, I was monitoring the news, as I always do, and found out that the lands at the corner of Highbury and Dundas and Oxford had been approved for a sale, and did some research to find out who the owners were, and reached out to them. And shortly thereafter, we were able to come to an agreement to be able to purchase 11 acres from that parcel. And so began the long process of trying to get to where we are today, as through COVID and working through government technicalities and paperwork and stuff. We've been able to start to move forward with what I'm glad to share with you guys here. And this obviously hasn't gone public yet. We're doing what they call a silent phase for this until we're able to do so, which we will go to the public in a more public way next March is the schedule right now. So happy to share. Our campaign name is New Home, New Hope. Help us build a forever home for these animals. I spoke a little bit about who we are, and I think, I can't say enough that we are not funded by the government, and really do rely on the community. And so this venture is the community's responsibility to look after the animals that we do see pass through here on an annual basis. We provide service to over 700,000 people and 360,000 animals in surrounding counties. I see a spell check in countries. That would be amazing, but we are really only just in our counties. And provide shelter to approximately 2,000 animals a year. So I'll just move back. That was the original slide, the who we are, and then what the page I just spoke about. My apologies. I thought you guys were seeing that. So moving forward, why we exist, to improve the lives of animals in our community and providing temporary shelter and appropriate new families for surrendered animals. We also work on two other pillars, and one's education, and we've invested a fair bit of money and effort into education. We believe not only educating today's current owners and past owners, but also our future potential owners in the children. And so we did have plans to get to be inside of schools pre-COVID, and obviously that stymied our efforts, but we will continue to do that with hopes to be able to enter into the classrooms with a program that we've been able to create with the support of our friends at Northern. On the other side of it, we've also moved into more of an advocacy position, and we'll put some future efforts and continue the efforts that we're doing now. With that, we are part of a group called the Ontario Animal Welfare Network. We are the largest animal welfare network in Ontario. There is now 11 humane societies that are involved. Toronto recently came on board, and we feel that group effort will be even more powerful for our advocacy. We are very happy that all three of the current political parties have put animal welfare on their platform. And while we all know that's well and good, it'll be the OAWN and us as a participant in that to hold the feet to the fire to continue to make sure that animal welfare continues to stay on the table and improvements are made every year. So. We need everyone's help. The state of our shelter and our resources are no longer able to meet the demand of our services. I think that's pretty obvious, and you'll see a few images and stuff that will show the current shelter. Throughout the 120 years, things have just become obviously just the old materials and stuff that things were built with are falling apart, and in some cases unsafe. We continue to try to make improvements where we can, but it's past that opportunity. And you can see from this system and this image where things were when we first came in. We have done some changes to this photo into that room, but it is definitely more than time. Someone asked me if we were going to do a study if it was needed, and I said I think I can put my finger through a few cinder blocks in the back half of the shelter. So I think that's enough of a study to conclude that we needed to move on, and no sense throwing some money into to more studies that we hear about in other areas of business. So our current shelter, like I mentioned, is around that 9,800 square feet, just under an acre. We really do stretch the limits. You can see that I work in a room that's really not my office. It's a boardroom. I sit here in the corner, no windows, so I don't know what the weather is like out most days, and I come in the dark and go home in the dark during the winter months. But we've really taken this building and used anywhere we can to bring in new cages to hold the animals. And so the current capacity is around 215. Obviously, this is a slide, but we've seen numbers in recent weeks as high as 250 animals in the shelter. And so we've really been forced to grow our foster program as well. As many animals as we adopt in a week, sometimes 25 to 30 animals will be adopted. Our plus minus is very always round zero, -1, +2 kind of thing. So we are very worried about COVID and the return to work. We see our friends in the States seeing many animals being returned as people go back to work. And so we've been building some plans to try to work with that. I can share with you right now here in Canada, I can tell you that it's COVID bunnies that we seem to have an issue with. People are returning a lot of rabbits, and the shelters are full, and there will be a press release goes out next week on behalf of the OAWN with just the overabundance of bunnies. Some of the shelters have more bunnies in their shelter now than they would have held all year long any other year. So again, something that we're working on. I'm happy to share that HSLM spay and neuters all their pets, including our rabbits, and those things, obviously that process actually comes at a fairly large cost to do, but it's our efforts to try to curb the animal population. The new shelter has the capability to hold 400 animals, and that would be at capacity. What's cool about the new shelter is when we're building the environment that an animal will live in, it's expandable. So if it doesn't have a neighbor, we're able to move the wall that divides them, and now they have a bigger space, and we can continue to do that. The animals will also have access to go outside when they want to as well, and stand on heated pads outside on the concrete. So no longer having to worry about an animal slip on the ice, or a staff member for that matters. Building a forever home, an incredible rendering that was brought to us through the last few years. We are incredibly excited about the facility. It stands on Dundas Street, just outside of, I apologize, I remember the name of the restaurant. Something King's Buffet is right across the street. So if everybody's familiar with the previous facility was a lawn bowling facility. And that essentially is where the building will be located. There's 11 acres there. The new building will take up approximately 4.5 acres, with the remaining part of the land for outdoor space for lots of fun runs and play areas and walking trails that we're going to open up to the community as well. So we are not just building a shelter, we are building a community center. And this shelter has been designed around lots of elements that will allow the community to come in and use it for other reasons besides just animals. There's rentable space. There's an education center. Companies can essentially come and rent space off us to host a meeting during the day. And if they so choose, have a great introduction to a pet and maybe learn a little bit about dog care, cat care, those types of things at the same time. We're pretty excited about the opportunity. So we'll continue to share more about the building as we move through it, but everything there has been created to accommodate animals and humans as well. There's going to be actually rooms where people can go in and spend time with 10 cats in the same room. And those rooms are going to be themed. Right now, the themes stand as a museum, a jungle, a living room, and an aquarium. And so those cats will live in a lot of fun areas. It will come at a cost a little bit more than we're used to, because all animals will have to be FIV tested to be able to live together, and obviously make sure that they're going to get along with each other as well, those cats and stuff. So we're super excited, and so is our staff and our volunteers, about the capabilities of the new facility. And at the same time, we'll offer an opportunity for more fundraising to be able to pay for the building as it progresses. The other interesting part that I will share is that the facility will have a public veterinarian clinic, just under 5,000 square feet of space. That, number one, the Humane Society animals will be our number one client to that clinic, but also the general public will also have an opportunity to book time to bring their animal in at services that are at just above real cost. So really low cost veterinarian care. One of the things that we're seeing right now, and I can't say for sure because it's directed at COVID, but we're having a lot of people having to sacrifice their animals because they can't afford the medical care that it requires. And so if we can provide that, that'll hopefully keep more animals in their homes. And, you know, as much as we love animals in our shelter, number one goal is always to do our best to try to keep animals in their current home and with their humans. So a little bit of the layout of the facility. It's constantly changing, but the general dynamics of the facility will look like this. Your main entrance, the adoption areas here, the education center and some admin area, the veterinarian clinic, area for rehab and holding for animals as they come into the shelter, a proper mechanical room that actually has lights and not a sand floor and water everywhere will be really, really nice. And actually some staffing accommodations. I mean, right now we have a room that even pre-COVID, we really could only fit one person in for a staff to try to make a coffee or heat up some lunch. And so we'll be able to have a room where the staff can actually sit down and have a proper lunch. And that's really just looking after our employees in a proper way. And something I'm super excited is that our vehicles will be able to enter inside the building. And that's a big change from the risk that we have now where an animal could technically escape from a vehicle as we're trying to transfer it from a van inside. And we've had a couple instances where that's been a problem, obviously. So the main hall, like I spoke to us, is going to give us an opportunity to have more things happen in the shelter, fundraising, meetings. Rotary could host an event here. We would welcome you to do so. An education center to speak to children, offer daycare in summertime. So you could drop off Johnny and Sally and we would monitor and educate your children while they're with us. So it's a camp for kids with themes every day of animals. And so we're really excited about that opportunity. The state-of-the-art veterinarian clinic, what I've touched on. Ample outdoor spaces. I mean, it's no secret. We just don't have that here. And walking up and down Clarkside Road has not been a safe environment for anyone. And then just the fact that we're actually going to have an HVAC system that actually works. Monitoring airflow and all that will be directed outside and really just better ways to be able to serve the animals. So today I leave you with help us help animals donate. And I look forward to the opportunity to speak more about this with you, your people, and the groups inside the community. So I'm going to stop sharing and have a little drink of water and love to hear some feedback.
So if you have questions for Steve, please ask them.
I have a question, Steve. This is Rashad again. You mentioned something about having a modular building. So my background actually is in construction. So I'm just curious. I didn't see anywhere on the plans that mentioned it where it's a modular design. Is it a modular inside a pre-existing building, or are you able to make additions to the new building as you go along, or is it you're simply moving interior walls?
Yeah, great question. So it's actually the caging systems that are modular. So normally a dog would have a space, unfortunately here, not the greatest size, but there the space will go to a 4x7, I believe, the space off the top of my head. Sorry, a lot of numbers flowing through my little brain right now. But if there's nobody neighbor to that dog, the panel in between folds and now all of a sudden that dog has an even bigger space. And then if it chooses to, it can walk outside as well through the progress. So lots of modular opportunities that way. And the caging for the felines is similar, and same with the bunnies. The other thing that we've done is with any animal that would be in a smaller size cage, which would be up to today's standards, will be positioned on wheels. And so they'll be inside of a room that's actually 20 feet by 10 feet with a cage in there. And then so it can be managed. But if we need that room to be one room for one animal, we can just wheel the cage out and the animal will have that room to itself. And obviously it's all dependent on volume of animals and of course and stuff. But great question. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Steve, it's Malcolm. I have a question. What might be the strangest animal that you've had to take into the shelter for a while? I mean, people have these iguanas these days and odd beasts. So
yeah, so the first one that comes to mind is just because I'm scared of them is a snake, and we have one here in the shelter. I had the staff put a big block on top of it because I am really super scared of them. But over the years, we've had hedgehogs, those types of things. There was a hedgehog here actually not too long ago. But I have heard stories that there was I'm not sure if it was a crocodile or an alligator that came into the shelter long before my time. So I would say that was definitely the weirdest. And then the biggest hurdle one was the one I mentioned earlier, was 160 head of cattle. Was not an easy spot to find a home. And we lucked out. We found a cattleman who had just retired and sold his herd. And then when I called, he's like, all right, I'll take him on. His wife wasn't too happy because she was wanting to go away that winter. And instead they were back to looking after cows. Yeah. Great question.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
So we are open to snakes. I just will not be heading down that area of the building.
I was just wondering about the volunteer program, particularly for high school age kids.
Yeah, great question. When I started here, we really didn't have a program. We had volunteers and they would just come, and no one really had any direction or what they should be doing in those days and times. And I don't think it was an efficient use of anybody's time, theirs or ours. And so in that time, we purchased some software through the help of Northern, again, in that direction, to actually manage timetables and volunteer people so that they could actually see online when they could volunteer and those types of things. The other thing that I came into at the time was that I was told the insurance company frowned upon people under the age of 18 being inside of the building for safety reasons. And so we're working away at trying to change that and how we can do that. And one of the programs that is we're getting in a pilot to launch is to be able to offer hours for students to our what we call our CHIT program. So we get these huge towels donated, but we actually have staff cut them into 8x8 sections. So we're going to have a program where high school students can reach out to us and come and pick up a bag, or they can do it at home. Hopefully don't cut up their parents' tea towels and stuff, but we would be willing to sign off on volunteer hours there. The other great way that we're seeing a lot of students be involved are organizing their own events, or third-party events, as they call it in the fundraising industry. So my daughters go to Lord Dorchester, and they did a fundraising event through the winter time. They're not my daughters, but friends of theirs organized it. And so we're seeing a lot of students go at it that way. And we offer support to third parties that want to do, of any age, but we would definitely offer our support in any way we can with there, whether it's signage, promotion on social, or my attendance of speaking if they do something towards that area. So I hope that answers your question. And I love that question. Yeah. When I say the army of volunteers, we would not be able to do what we do based on the volume of staff that we have. I know of a shelter in Alberta that has the same volume of animals that we do, and they have over 50 staff members. So we run pretty lean and mean here. And it's because of our staff, and we do a lot of training with staff. And essentially, other than they're not paid, they're just as valuable as our staff members and trained in the same way.
Steve?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Bud. I know Bud as well. I've worked with Bud on the past.
I wonder if you could touch on adoption procedures.
Yes.
And what happens to animals that have sort of been with you too long?
Okay, so no such thing as too long. When I first started here, the application was you would fill it out. Many people would, and there'd be a lot of reading and going through that. Do they have a backyard with a fence? Da 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 da. And it would last weeks. It was archaic in my mind, and so we spent a lot of time with research, and we developed what we call the Fall in Love program, where you would come into the shelter and really just see the animal in the cage and fall in love. Go to a form that was a profile of every single animal, and it was a chance for you to then read maybe what was good or helpful with that animal. I joke that if my wife had read about me, she may not be with me today in advance. So I put that along those same lines. That poor woman has dealt with a lot. But when COVID came, we had to adjust that, and almost back to somewhat of the previous way where you have to apply online. And so it's kind of a first in, first out. If with the first application that looks good to us and makes sense, we reach out to them, we do an interview on the phone, and then the process goes from there. Whether it's a dog, we'll meet them outside. And if it's a cat, we'll allow them in the first front door to have that interaction, or with a bunny or a mouse or whatever animal that we have. So that process continues to today. We are being very protective of people coming into the building, because I can't afford to have staff get sick, and I don't have extra staff to replace them. And in fact, when we do have a staff member down, it's all hands on deck. So I was busy washing dishes this morning. My hands reek like bleach, but it's what we do here in a day. So, and to answer your question, Bud, on an animal too long, there isn't such a thing. We do not euthanize for space here at the Humane Society. We will find a home, and we will go to drastic measures to do whatever it takes to do so. Now, we do have a euthanization program here at the Humane Society, wherein when a vet says to our health team or myself, no amount of money is going to save this animal, or Fluffy is in pain and this is causing it undue harm, then you guys need to let the animal go. And then even then, we have a member from every single department here on the team meet in here, and we go over everything that's happened in the background on that animal. It's a meeting that everybody tries to evade because it's a sad one, but we want to be able to shoulder the stress of it, because it's hard for anybody to say bye to an animal, and unfortunately, it's something that we do here at the Humane Society. More, if it's once, it's more than we want it to be, and sometimes good things come out of that. We try some crazy strategies. We have a dog that a vet told us had 2 months. We put that dog into care of one of our fosters, and I don't know what's in that family's water, but that dog is still alive with us today. So we're really proud that we go to extremes to make sure we do whatever we can. The other thing that we should consider is that people do bring their animals here to be euthanized because the vet has told them that they need to and they can't afford it. And we'll even still hold the right to make sure we even see our vet to confirm that. Prior to my coming on board, in years previous, they had averaged over 300 euthanizations a year, because of people would bring animals to euthanization, or the lack of money in some cases, maybe even still. Today in 2020, I can share that that number was 61, and it's still 61 too many, but sometimes we do have to say goodbye to those animals. So, but I can assure you we do whatever we can. And some people probably think we're crazy when we're spending $3,000 or $4,000 on animals. But here inside, and our supporters and our donors don't think we're crazy for doing it. And we'll continue to do that as long as we can. And we're able to do this. Really, the big change is fundraising. And we have a fund development department, and the funds are allowing us to do more and more than ever before. We do about 9 dentals for cats every single month. So we're fixing teeth. We need a dentist on staff almost, but it's really diverted animals to homes as opposed to what would have happened in the past.
Thank you, Steve. I've always admired your enthusiasm. So, the society is in great hands.
Thanks, Bud. And I'm just one member of the team, and as long as I keep my nose out of the medical side of things, and just keep making sure that bills are getting paid and the dollars are coming in. Yeah, we'll be good. Yeah.
Steve, would you touch on the fostering family, the process to become one, what's involved in being a foster family or home for your pets?
Yeah. So the foster program, to be honest with you, I would say it's new, although it's weird. We've been doing this for 120 years. It was never really worked out really well. We had a lot of issues with animals disappearing, not coming back, those types of things. So we kind of closed it down, and really evaluated the program, and then kind of trying to give it a bit of more of a rebirth again, into a safer and more economical environment. One thing that we truly believe in is the animals are really best cared for here with our staff and our volunteers. But there's definitely cases where puppies shouldn't be here for 7 weeks, or kittens shouldn't be here for 7 weeks, or animals that are in long-term healthcare issues. I believe the number is approximately 25 people that are in our foster program. You can apply through our website to do that. We do have a bit of a backlog in that area. To be open and honest, we all carry 3 hats. And so the lady that looks after that, as I know, she's doing her best to climb through the applications. And sometimes they're not always good fits, and sometimes it takes time to prep the animal to do that. But the foster program, there's a fairly lengthy questionnaire and application to go through. We do support those animals with food and the medication and all the expenses, so fosters don't incur any of those costs. And we work with those on every single one's an individual basis on how that works. I hope I answered your question, Rick, on a broader thing.
What about, do foster homes also have existing pets in their home?
I believe some do, for sure. Yep, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, if they're not spayed or neutered, we wouldn't be sending an unspayed or neutered animal your way. And so those things are definitely looked after. And then also, if there is, they will do, I forget the fancy word for it, but meet and greets. I think we have an animal term that we use for it, but meet and greets to make sure that those are potential risks are looked after. And sometimes fosters don't work out, or someone's been up for 4 days straight trying to feed puppies and they just really need a break. And so they'll bring them back. And then we have what we call foster fails. And those are fosters who are supposed to be just looking after the animal for short term, who end up keeping the animal and adopting them. And so it's a good failure on our part, obviously. But yeah, so I hope that helps.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Wonderful. Thank you, Steve. It has been a very informative presentation. And I know I saw multiple people's eyes light up when you talked about the room for petting cats. So that's good news.
I'm looking forward to it.
On behalf of the Rotary Club of London, I would like to thank you and the Humane Society for all the work that you do in the community, especially promoting animal welfare. And on your behalf, or in recognition of your presentation, the Rotary Club of London has made a contribution to the Polio Plus campaign of the Rotary Foundation to immunize 50 infants against polio. Because of you, Rotary is one step closer to a polio-free world.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. I really truly appreciate it. And I will look forward to sharing that with our board and all our staff and volunteers. And once again, thank you very much. And again, for those who I don't know, it's nice to hopefully one day we'll cross paths. And for those that I had mentioned, and also Bud, I didn't recognize you in the meeting. It's good to see some familiar faces back from the old Thames Valley Children's Center Sports Celebrity Dinner. We had some really good times back then.
And Steve, can I ask you to put an email in the chat for anybody that's interested in volunteering or getting more involved with the Humane Society?
Yeah, for sure. I'll do that.
Whatever contact information you'd like to put there.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you have other things to do, you are free to leave after you put those details into the chat, or you are welcome to stick around for the remainder of our meeting.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. I think I'm going to try to squeeze in some lunch and head off to my next meeting. So I will leave my contact information, and then I'll also leave the Humane Society's website information. That it's really, really thorough, and hopefully that'll answer a lot of questions. But I want to extend that you have a main contact here. I'm happy to work with anybody that has some questions or comments anytime. Thank you very much, everybody.
Wonderful, thank you. So I think the first item of business is a report from the bingo committee. We had a bingo, I think, 2 weeks ago. Or a week and a half ago?
Yes, we did. Do you want to give it, Keith, or do you want me to?
Go ahead, Rick. Go ahead.
Okay. We had a bingo on Tuesday last week, and Swanee and Keith and I worked that bingo, and it was a smaller than usual turnout. The maximum they can host is 107. They only had 70 players, but it still generated just under $3,900 for the bingo pool. Our next bingo is coming up in November, and I'll get a notice out a few weeks beforehand, looking to see who. We only need 3 Rotarians for each bingo, so it's not the panic we used to have when we needed about 10.
Wonderful, thank you. And is Heather? I didn't check to see if Heather is here.
Heather's here.
Are you able to provide us with an update? I understand things went wonderfully well in my absence on Saturday.
Yes, yeah, it did go really well. Unfortunately, we didn't. Not only do we not have our club president at our President's Cup tournament, we didn't have our incoming president at our President's Cup tournament. So it was new all around. The venue was gorgeous. Everybody seemed to have a good time. Thank you to all of you who said nice things to me about the work for this. I appreciate it. I'm trying to work through the numbers. Not everything is firm yet, so I'm not going to give a false report. Our Sergeant at Arms is going to walk through all our team winners, and there will be a mass email go out so everybody knows who won what. But, we may have to consider doing this venue again because it was just a blast, and having some live music. Many thanks to David Elliott for arranging that. Although it started off a little loud, it was fabulous music. I saw people dancing, and they weren't even with our group. So, and some of the local people that decided to show up to the venue that night really seemed to enjoy our event as well. And the weather gods, other than a little wind, and for some of us, it may have helped on certain angles, and then others not so much, but it was a blast. So I hope to have all the numbers, or the majority of them, firmed up for the board report this week. So I really can't honestly tell you where we will end up on our bottom line, but Great job to everyone. The volunteers, of course, as always, were amazing and very supportive, and it was very nice to have that. So any questions, you can fire me off a note. Thanks, Don.
Wonderful, thank you. And back, I think, to you, Rick, for the tree planting.
Oh, okay, thanks, Don. We have a team. Don shut down the registration. I think it's 27 people have registered. We've got some families, which is nice, and some grandkids. So there's going to be some younger people that need to get some volunteer time in, are going to get some of those aspects covered, even though there's COVID. About a week before the Saturday, October the 2nd, I should be able to get out details as to where to meet and at what time. It's generally slotted for 9:30 to 11:30 on Saturday morning of the 2nd of October. It looks like they haven't been able to find a suitable one-stop parking area, so we're probably going to have to park on residential streets near the Hyde Park Rotary link. And I'm going to, the organizer from Reforest London, Dan Marina, is going to send me a Google map to indicate which neighborhoods we should use and where the Rotary Park, Hyde Park link is located, and that. It's going to be a busy day out there at the site. There is the Rotary Club of Hyde Park will actually be doing some gardening and planting near the entrance to the link. And as well, the one of the Lions clubs in the area are also going to be planting trees. But I'm advised that the link is large enough and long enough to handle all of us without any concern about physical distancing or any of that. So there'll be more to come on that.
Wonderful, thank you. And then I think David Elliott.
I don't know if everybody is aware, but we were trying to have an East Coast kitchen party for October 8th. Everything was looking sunny and bright, and then COVID cases started to rise, and we went around and asked a few people who in the past have brought in a number of tables. We had a 300-person capacity that was going to be available for the 8th of October. But then once we heard back from a number of people who were trying to bring tables and were having struggle trying to get people to come to an indoor event, especially with the question around vaccine passports now. So we chose to cancel it, and we're going to roll it into the same time. We're going to try to do it Mother's Day on the Friday before in 2022. So let's hope we can kick this COVID and where it belongs, and it means far away from here. And let's hope that we can get back to enjoying each other's company again. And again, I want to congratulate Heather and her committee for an excellent day on Saturday. It was a lot of fun, and it's all, and I know the work is a lot, and I know that Heather, you put a lot into it, so really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'll remind you that we in Rotary serve to change lives, and I hope everyone has a good week. Thank you very much.